third video in our series illustrates correct filing technique. The filing process is crucial in maintaining the structure of your reapplied product as detailed in video 2. Our shaping roadmap will bring the final shape into your finished work without compromising the support structure achieved. At this point, we have cured our final application for 2 minutes. Remember, it is important to cure for a full 2 minutes after your final application of Flex. Now we can bring our hands back out. We have a sticky dispersion layer that's left on top of our gel chemistry. Very important to remove this thoroughly and completely. This is what our after wipe is for. Make sure your nail wipe is good and wet, and wipe very thoroughly away from the cuticle and up into the grooves. When I'm wiping, my client feels the very edge of my thumbnail actually getting down into the growth channels to thoroughly cleanse away all of the dispersion layer. That sticky dispersion layer can become part of the dust that we're creating when we're shaping our nails. So finishing up very, very thoroughly. Now we're ready to do our filing process. I'm going to take you through our process of filing, which is called a shaping roadmap. It's a 5-step filing system that I've designed specifically for our product application. We don't have a thick, heavy application. When we look into the barrel of this nail, you can see that it's almost as it was before we started the prep. Just a little bit uneven, needing refining. I like to use a diamond file. This is made by Erica's. It's a lifetime file that at my desk lasts me about 5 years. It's really nice and rigid, allowing for very straight lines. So I file my perimeter of my nail with my diamond file. So our first process is to make sure that the growth channels are filed evenly into the free edge. I'm going to place my diamond file just underneath that edge, file it up along into the growth channel so that it grows out just like the free edge, and then I'm going to file into the growth channel. Now my goal here is to create a line that depicts the natural growth. I want my free edge to look like it's growing right out of my client's growth tracks. And this file sets that line beautifully for me. So we're setting what we call the perimeter of the free edge. Even if I am going to take this nail into a rounded or an oval shape, I start square though. It gives me my lines of vision. When I look into my barrel after I've set my outside edges, I can see the thickness of the supports that I pillowed in. So it gives me a point to work from, making sure that I don't remove that support. So again, we pull the tissue back, set our file in, file that free edge into the growth channel. Make sure it's flowing just like the growth of the natural nail. You don't need to be aggressive with this file. It's very, very productive. Always pushing and working into the product, not pushing down into the client's skin. We want this to be comfortable and non-irritating. Again. Now as you file the free edges in, these nails should start to look like they really belong on this client's finger. They should be pretty at this stage. They shouldn't fan out. They should be flowing with the natural line. If your free edges are looking wider and fanned than the nail bed, there is a rule of thumb to keep in mind. The width of the nail plate right at the top of the cuticle corner should match the width right here. If you use that to create a visual for you, you'll find that that nail looks pretty right away. And then you've just got to work on shaping the surface in. So we're setting those lines and setting those lines. Now if you're finding that your pillowing was very heavy and it still looks very fat and wide through the smile line, a simple rotation of your file like this right up onto the surface of your work will take that bulk into the line that you're trying to create. Filing is very important. It's just as important as your application. It's your last chance, of course, to make that nail look very pretty. And let's get rid of all that dust. And there's your perimeter shaped in. At this point, you should be looking for continuity in length. This nail's just a little bit longer as I look at them, so I'm going to go back and bring that length back down just slightly. And you can see they're nice and even and square. Now as we look at them, perfect along the cuticle line. Smile line's nice and evenly balanced. Free edges are coming out even as they grow. All I've done is really created a structure that follows the line of the natural nail. This is the edge that we added back in that is actually artificial. And you can't tell the difference from that to where Susan's natural nail lays underneath. That's what you're looking for. We're going to move into now our electric file work. The rest of my shaping, right up until my final detail work, is all done with machine. And of course, with my Arbor Band, my nice gentle paper abrasive. Now remember, let's back up to our application. Remember, my first and last is the only gel that I applied through that cuticle line. Therefore, when I push the cuticle back and feel for the edge of product, there isn't one. There's not a bump, there's not a lump. What I've got is the natural nail line right there. So we're going to go through and mimic that out into my overlay. I use my paper abrasive, Arbor Band. I find that line and watch. We're just going to bring it up through the middle of the nail, what I call up the hill to the smile line. Rotate your bit and back down again. So I'm just shaping the middle of the nail right now. So I've created a nice contour that copies the natural nail flow. Through this contouring, I'm also creating the thickness that I want this nail to be. So if we look into the barrel of the nail, what we see now is almost what looks like a flatter spot, a thinner spot in the middle. Look at your supports. You can really see the fullness of the supports on the side. That's what you want. Now, our next step is to go into the cuticle corners. Because your application has been very thin, very refined, you've done the pillow, all we really need to do here is take the shine off as we blend those cuticle corners in. Remember that rotation of bit that I used in preparation? Look at how I'm using that same rotation to mimic and copy the natural nail contouring. All I've done now is the cuticle corners. I want to leave the sides to the last because I don't want to file them too thin. So with that in mind, now I'm going to go into beveling my free edge in. I'm going to take my bit at a diagonal to accomplish this, and just the free edge. Now the angle of my bit needs to be the same angle that I created in the contour. If I bevel with this angle, it's going to ruin my surface contour. So really keep in mind position, just like you did when you were applying with your brush. Diagonal stroke all the way through. Now to check my beveled free edge, I like to hold my finger over top. So I take my vision away from what still needs to be filed. I've set all my lines of nail shape, so now I know where my supports have to be blended into. So now I'm going to use a diagonal and a bit of a horizontal stroke to blend my supports in as I look down the nail. Now look at that, nicely blended in. Now let's blend this one in with a horizontal diagonal stroke. What you'll notice as I'm shaping a nail with my tool is that I never take a vertical stroke up my nail surface. The reason I choose not to do that kind of motion is it creates flat lines. I'm working on contouring round lines through my nail plate. So that's why I do horizontal and diagonal. And we move to the thumb. My favorite for demoing. Check that out. You push back the cuticle, check your pillow, check your first and last. Make sure there's no ridge there, no big demarcation. Use that to mimic the natural flow. I've yet to meet a client that doesn't want her nails to look as natural as possible. That's why they come to see you. They can't grow their own. So what we're really doing is growing them for them and then protecting them and enhancing their structure. It's not about building big, thick, artificial nails. Bevel in that free edge all the way across. Notice I'm looking at the free edge as I'm beveling it in. and blend in the support. Very little filing needs to be done with the application process that I took you through. What I'm doing in this motion is just simply blending all my lines together. Now at this stage, I like to go back to a board file. What I'm going to do with my board file is shape my free edges. I want to bring a nice refined continuity through the free edge. I do that at this point because when I'm working with my board file to bring my pretty finished shape in, it tends to thicken my free edge up a little bit, because the next step that I'm going to take is to refine my edges. So my choice is to do my shaping now so my edges are beautifully refined and I don't have to go backwards in my work. I like to use what we call a White Diamond Deluxe file for this. Honestly, it's a personal preference. Whatever you choose to use is just fine. Make sure though that you're getting a continuity in shape and every free edge is sitting at the same length, and you've got the same lines, nicely balanced. I'm able to get my nails very even by working straight on, looking into them. Some people have to look at different angles and views, and that's just fine. As I say, the shaping tricks are a whole nother class on their own. So we're going through, getting the shape. Following the lines that you've created really is the important thing, and just refining them. And use a nice soft 180 grit file. Don't go into 100 grit. It's far too coarse and rigid for this. We want detail. We don't want removal. Now for this step, we're going to do detail work. For the detail work, I am going to use it's called a cross-cut diamond bit. It is a multi-directional bit, which is very important in my techniques. I'm going to refine and detail right down in the growth channel so that when I finish my nail now, I'm going to be able to seal. If there's any debris sitting down in the groove, it's going to cause a problem with getting a seal and getting a good finished tight bond. So let's go into that refinement. I'm going to use just the very, very corner of the bit. Notice that as I work into my tissue with it, it's very gentle. It doesn't cut. It's not going to cause any abrasion or irritation. I want to move my client's finger on its side, pull the skin back, and use just the very corner of this bit, and I'm going to angle it away from the nail, not onto the nail, just to clean this corner up. If you happen to lose control of your pillows, this is how you clean it off the skin if you got it in the corner or anywhere else where it wasn't supposed to be. When you're back at the cuticle line with your diamond bit, do not work on its corner. This will cause those red rings of fire that we want to stay away from. Make sure that that bit is flush to the nail with the product. Now, once we've accomplished clearing away the growth channel, making sure the cuticle line is clean, we're going to go through the body of the nail plate, following that up the hill, down the hill that we did with our paper abrasive arbor band. But now I'm going to refine it to enhance the C curve. So I start at the cuticle corner, move to the other cuticle corner. Each stroke moves up the nail. See the C, reverse the C at the smile line, and you get a U. And bring it back down. U, C. And that refines and pulls all the shape together. So again, let's go through that. And the corner of the bit angled away. Don't bring that bit here. You're going to file your supports off, and then you get a very thin edge and the potential of cracking. It's only to clear the growth channel out. Bring it along the cuticle line, which should be clean, and then up the other growth channel, again angled out. Now, let's watch that enhancing of the C curve. Cuticle corner to cuticle corner, moving up each stroke. See the C? As we see the C, we refine the C curve. Reverse the C at the smile line so you see the U. It's a little CU, and when you can really truly go through that CU, your shape is done. Now that process is finished. We're ready to move on to the last, most important part of our machine work, and that is cleaning up underneath the nail. So we're going to remove our cross-cut bit, and we're going to go into our pointed diamond bit. I'm going to ask my client to turn her hands over, And we're not going to use this bit to file anything away because we've already cleaned everything up with our preparation and application. What we are going to use it for is just to remove any little catchy tabs that may be living in the edges. If we leave any little bits of product right here, your clients are going to pick. And then they're going to come back and say, I don't know what happened, it just fell off. They will not admit they're picking. So the key to keeping your clients from picking is make sure the detail work is done. Send them away with absolutely nothing to pick at. Now the best way to get down into these little edges is make a little peace sign with your fingers, turn them upside down, use your thumbnail to pull that skin back out of the corner, and place your bit gently right in here. I use a medium grit diamond bit to do this. Again, no carbides because I'm working with very delicate tissue. So the diamond bit I find for myself to create what I'm looking for has been the best choice. Now if the keratin is a little bit stained, say from lifestyle, smoking, anything like that, just a little skiff over top of it will clean it. Now we go to our dust brush, always using a synthetic brush so that we can disinfect it, and it's very thorough in dust removal. Get rid of all the dust that we've created now, as we are now going to go into our final shaping work or refining work, and this is done with what I call a spongy board, and it's a type of buffer that looks like this. It's a nice sponge. You can use a white block. There's a variety of tools out there. This is what we choose to use with our process. I like the spongy because when I press into the nail, it finds that nail shape. And I bring it through the surface, cuticle corner, bevel the free edge, and blend in the sides, just like I shape the nail. So if I missed any kind of refinement work with my diamond bit, this will find it and shape it in for me. Now at my level, I don't have to use it for shaping. I'm simply using it to remove the scratches. So even once you get so that your detail is absolutely impeccable, don't neglect this step. You want to lightly buff your gel before you put your final coat on, so that when you wash it down, you don't leave a debris of fuzz behind from your nail wipe that you're using to wash. It may seem like, oh, I don't have time for it at this step, at this stage. Take the time. It will make a really big difference in your final application. It makes it go on much smoother, much easier. A little bit of buffing is all it takes. There we go. And at this stage, we're ready to wash down and put our final shine on. Our washing down is done again with our after wipe. And be very generous, nice and wet, and give them a bath. Really wash everything off, nice and clean. This is your chance to get rid of all the dust. Make sure your own hands are nice and clean too. If you've got a pile of dust on you, it's not going to do any good getting it off of your client's nails. Now that we've finished wiping our nails down with after wipe and ensured that the nail plate surface and growth channel is very dry, we're going to move into our one last step before our final shine. We use our bondage in the growth channel and cuticle area one last time. Take a nice dip with your brush and apply through the cuticle area and up the edges. This application is going to allow your warmed up first and last to actually seal to the cuticle and growth channel area. We've carefully detailed the cuticle and growth channel with our diamond bit. Now we have a very, very small edge of natural nail exposed that we want to apply the bondage to. Only one coat is needed for this final application. Take a good look at them, make sure they're clean, refined, even. This is it. You don't have a chance now to go back on them. You're going to be finishing. For this, we go into our product now, our first and last. I work with 2 pots of first and last. One is room temperature for bond, for pillowing. The other is warm. Now, when I'm working with my warmed up first and last, I do change brushes. Notice I went from this brush to this brush. Sable to synthetic. See how thick the sable brush is? Look at how skinny and fine the synthetic brush is. I like to apply my last with a thin, skinny little edged brush so I can get my application very, very thin and refined on the edges. Now, pick up your small bead. Very small. Look how little I'm working with. Just as we did in our initial application of our first, exactly the same process. Brush it through the middle of the nail first. Leave that little space around the edge. Only now the difference is no pillowing. Now you want to really get in there nice and tight. You really have to have good eyes, as I said earlier. Make sure you can see the edge. Use that fine edge of bristles to get as close to the edge where the skin lives as you can without touching it. Remember how we refined those edges out with that diamond bit? And I left almost a hair of natural nail showing around the edge? This is what I'm painting my last two. So we pick up our bead, paint it through the middle. Remember with the first, I didn't want that. I wanted a floating. Now I want you to paint this on like it is polish. I do want those bristles to fan out and move. So you get a very, very thin layer. Use the edge of those bristles to get as close as you can. Do not pillow. I've got a thumb, I've got a bigger bead, bigger nail. Learn to pick up the appropriate amount for the nail that you're working on. This comes with time, with practice. Leave that space. If you need, go back, pick up another little bead to accommodate that space. Nice and tight. Notice how I use the corner of the bristles to get into the corner of the cuticle. I use the side of the bristles to come up the side of the nail, just as I have done throughout. I often think of my brush as a nail. The tip is the cuticle, the sides are the sides, and the furrow is the free edge. Now I've got a little tissue contact right here. This is a neat little trick. Take your brush and bevel the end out so it's an orange wood stick. And you've got an instant clean-up tool without having to take the time to put down and pick up. Take a good look on the edge. Don't miss the edges, especially the one that's away from you. It's very easy to miss it. So before you go into the light now, take a look. Make sure you see the shine all the way through the nail. Make sure you don't see any tissue contact. I'm looking back here. If you can see right here, there's a little dust particle. That's going to cure and become a little bump on the nail. So that's how picky you want to be. Make sure there's no little dust particles. I call them nail pimples once they cure in there. We don't want any of those. There's another one right there. Be particular. Now I'm happy. There's absolutely nothing touching the skin all the way around. There's no dust, there's no lint, there's no fuzz. They're the way I want them. Now we can put that hand in the light. Now this needs to cure for 2 full minutes, no more than 3. And at this stage, we've got a fully cured finish, but a dispersion layer. So again, very important to remove the dispersion layer with our after wipe. Pump out nice and wet on your nail wipe and wash it off. Again, very thoroughly using the corner of that thumbnail. Make sure you get down in the growth channel, and once your dispersion layer is removed, you should have this beautiful, full, even shine. Now last but not least, we have 2 little things that we like to finish with. I go back to my board file, and I'm just going to clean up the edges. Sometimes the first and last might bleed just into the corner here. So I always take my board file, my 180 grit, and go through a final stroking from the growth channel into the free edge, just to be absolutely certain there's nothing to pick at. And again, it's just a little process. It's not shaping. You've already done that. It's just a formality to clean up. Remember, it's your responsibility to make sure the client leaves without anything to pick at. At this point now, we're going to go into hydrating the cuticles with rose oil. Rose oil is our moisturizer. It hydrates and heals. So we're going to use it to rehydrate the cuticle, the tissue of the finger, as we've gone through a lot of process of dehydration. And we're also going to use it to moisturize the natural keratin. Just like we moisturize our hair, we need to moisturize our nails. So a drop underneath. This is something I send my clients home with to use on a daily, regular basis to keep the moisture content high, not only in the tissue, but in the natural keratin as well, to prevent separation of the free edge. Massage it in, give your client a nice little treat with it, and last but not least, I take what I call my lap towel, a nice clean towel, and I give it just a little bit of a buff. And this just removes that little film of oil. If you did happen to miss any dispersion layer from the gel with your after wipe, this will also lift it off so that you're not sending your client home with any kind of dispersion on her. And we have our finished nail fill. Now let's review filing and finishing. Thoroughly remove all residue from the cured nail. Evenly file the growth channel and free edge of the nail. Using the electric file, follow the natural contour of the nail up the hill to the smile line, down the hill to the free edge. Very gently take the shine off the cuticle corners. Holding your bit at the same angle as the contour of the nail, carefully bevel the free edge of the nail. Blend supports using a horizontal and diagonal stroke. Never use a vertical stroke. Dust all residue away. Inspect the nail. Using a board file, refine the free edges of the nail. Make sure nails are balanced and evenly contoured. Using a cross-cut diamond bit, detail nail, clearing the growth channel and cuticle line. Gently refine the surface of the nail using the CU technique. Using the pointed diamond bit, remove any tabs or stains on the underside of the nail. Using a sponge buffer, remove all scratches from the nail surface. Carefully apply final shine. Place hand in light for 2 minutes. Thoroughly cleanse the nail. Apply rose oil to the nail, cuticle, and surrounding skin to rehydrate and nourish the tissue. Thank you for viewing the filing and finishing portion of our video series. We know that with practice, you will be able to employ these techniques and use them to your fullest advantage to ensure your clients will have the best possible results. Your free edge shaping should move along just as what you're seeing here. Nice and quick, just cleaning those edges up. Not aggressive, yet assertive. Counteract your pressure. And what I mean by that is if you file a client's nail like so, it's really quite irritating. She feels like her nail's going to come off. Hold that nail plate down. Counteract your pressure, always. Create your contact point, file in, push back. If you're pushing this way, push back. Counteract always. Secure that nail plate, making it comfortable for your client. And there we go. That's how quick your free edge shaping should be. Now when I'm doing my, say, salon style speed hand, notice that I don't reposition my file. I stay in contact. To help myself keep my file in contact, I actually use my thumb to guide it around the left side, my index finger to guide it around the right side. You'll have to join us for a shaping class to get all the tricks on that one. And dust off. Now, as we're working with this nail, I'm going to show you a little trick that will help you possibly get that CU motion happening. If you try to do the CU contouring, keeping your client's nail in one position, it becomes very difficult. Watch as I move up the nail after I clear the growth channel. I'm going to move up the nail, and at the same time, I'm picking my client's fingernail up as I move through. As I come down, I'm moving her finger down. Try that little bit of a motion, and I think you'll find it much easier to get the feel of the contouring that we're trying to share with you.